Hello, I'm Sean Rydell. I'm here to talk to you about the French and Indian War. The French and Indian War was fought here in North America from 1754 to 1763. It's significant in American history because the debt that was incurred by Great Britain fighting this war was one of the primary reasons for the American Revolution that came a few years later. The French and Indian War was fought primarily between Great Britain and France. However, it encompassed all sorts of countries all over the world. In many ways, was the First World War. Now, the Illinois National Guard actually traces its history back to the 1720s with the French militias that were here in Illinois, which was at that time part of the French colony of Louisiana. The lists of equipment that they got were fairly small. If you compare to what a modern-day guardsman actually would have, they didn't get a whole lot. They were expected to come with their own guns, with many of their own clothes. They weren't actually paid. They were given clothing, they were given food, they were given ammunition. But today I'm going to focus primarily on the lists of equipment that was actually issued to each one of the militia guys. Starting over here, they were issued 2 pairs of shirts. Which they would have had. Here's a blanket that they would have been given. They also would have been given a tumpline, or what they say collier in French, which is a burden strap. It's just a kind of a multi-purpose thing for carrying various loads. For colder weather, they would be issued what was called a Capo, which was a double-breasted, large coat here, but very full, would cover up their body and everything else. It would also serve as an extra blanket for them to sleep at night. Now the guys were issued several knives. They were issued 1 kitchen knife, basically would be a kitchen knife today. They call it a boucheron, basically a woodsman's knife. 2 folding knives, specifically they call them siamois, which is a style of blade which kind of has this little bit of a swoop to it. But they were given 2 pocket knives. They were given an awl. This particular awl, if you see there's a pointed bit sticking out of this antler here, the same amount of pointedness is sticking into the handle here, so you could actually turn it around if you actually broke one into this awl here. They were given a comb. This is a lice comb. It would be useful for that. You could get little nits and things like that, but they were issued a comb. They were issued needle and thread. They were actually given 6 needles and 2 hanks of thread. It would have been somewhere around 120 feet worth of thread that they would have gotten. They were given a fire steel, which this little round thing is a fire steel. Here's a piece of flint. We'll show you how they would start their fires. I don't know if this is going to show up at all on camera, but we're getting little sparks off of here. What's happening is this flint is actually harder than the steel. It's actually scraping off bits of steel here. They would be given 6 gun flints, which here's a couple here that are floating around here. They would be given a gun worm, they called it, and it would fit on the end of a ramrod, just like a little spring here, and they would use that to get wadding out of guns and things like that. These guys smoked, so every man was given a pound of tobacco per every month that they actually served, so they would often be actually stored in something called a carrot. They would wrap up the tobacco leaves and rope and things like that, and here's just a common pipe of the time period. They would also be issued 2 pairs or a pair of shoes for every month that they were out. They were somewhat like glorified house slippers. I don't have a pair of those, but the other lists actually show that they would be given deer skin to make their own moccasins. So here we've got a moccasin and also deer skin here. They also had wool that was given to them that they were expected to make into some of their clothing items. So there would be a breech clout. There would be leggings, which about a yard of fabric would actually give you a breech clout and a pair of leggings here. And that pretty much wraps up what these guys were issued. Wasn't a whole lot, but they were expected to survive on all this, and this would be how they would serve their own needs. If you have any questions, feel free to ask the museum staff anything that you might not have had answered today.